Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Moment Mindset Podcast. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. My name is Dana. If you do not know already, I own the company Bee Leaf Lawn Mowing and Maintenance, and I am also on the creative team and one of the designing team and founders of the Moment Mindset. So if you're catching us on YouTube, welcome to the channel. I hope that you will find a reason to like, comment, and subscribe, especially from today's content. We're doing something very special. We're actually covering one of the videos from YouTube, the lawn care lies part 1 video. We're kind of doing a deep dive into those 4 lies that I talked about on that video today on the podcast. And so I'm so excited to do this episode. I've been thinking about it nonstop for the past couple of weeks. Very, very good. It's going to be very beneficial, especially for those of you that are new, looking to get into the industry this year in 2024 or later down the line. Some great information I'm planning to give you guys to help you all make that adjustment. My mic keeps moving, which is not okay. Give me 1 minute. All right. So I'm going to take a breath and relax. It's been probably a month since I've recorded one of the podcasts. Got super busy, started hiring. We went through 40 applicants and then narrowed that down to a pool of about 4 guys. So still looking to hire a few more before the season's out. But right now, finally, the hiring is done. I'm super excited about that. That's one less thing I have to worry about doing. But that did take up a lot of time, and I just couldn't devote time to filming content for the YouTube channel and filming a podcast. So here we are today to get into this episode. Let me switch over to my notes here. Yeah. Switch over to my notes. All right. We're going to jump right into what we're talking about. I'm getting dry mouth because it's been a while since I recorded. I'm nervous. I feel like it's my first time doing a podcast again. Let's jump in. We're talking about lawn care lies. Lawn care lies. This is such an important topic. Some of these lies we tell ourselves. Some of these lies we hear from other people, maybe in the industry, people that aren't in the industry that just have preconceived notions or opinions. And so I think it's good to address these, because this is one less thing that the new business owner, the upcoming lawn care business owner, the one who's interested in probably just kind of towing the line on the fence, not sure if they want to jump all the way in or not. Hopefully addressing these 4 in part 1 today will be the start of helping you overcome some of those fears, some of those obstructions or challenges that your mind is just going through with making a decision. Or if you've made the decision, your mind is going through and it's kind of blocking you from growing or expanding or profiting the way that you really want to and would like to. So I'm going to start with lie 1. All right. Lie number 1 is running a lawn care business sucks. For various reasons, I think this is a standing lie. Let me give you some history. My very first business I ran for 3 years was a partnership lawn care business. So I was 50-50 partners with a guy, and I want to talk about that with him here. So this way I don't, this way I can make sure that we're on the same page with how we remember things going between us, how we got started and how we split. So I'm not going to get too deep into that story, but that was my very first business. Ran it for 3 years. It was a lawn care company similar to the one that I run now. And after that, I left that business. We parted ways. I left that business and went back to school, went back to college to finish college. Once I graduated, I went for sports and exercise sciences, so I could get into personal training and things like that. I thought that was going to be my new business calling, so I started a fight club. I started private coaching, MMA amateur and boxing amateur striking, and strength and conditioning. But I did learn some things from that, and so I made some great connections from that. And so I really thought that once the fight thing didn't take off, I had a couple clients on the weekends, a couple clients I would see after work, stuff like that. But I didn't really jumpstart that business. That business ended up shutting down. I'm going the route of more track and football training, strength and conditioning. And I did that, personal training, if you will. Did that for a number of years. And again, I just couldn't turn it over to a place where I could just get away completely from my job. I was working third shift probably all of these years during, all this training business stuff that I was doing. I was working third shift, and now I would train during the day. Right when I got off, I'd meet a guy, do road work and stuff like that. So that was the routine for years and years, and I just could never build it or get it to a space where it took me off my job, which was very frustrating. But I didn't give up. I just kept moving, kept rebranding, kept renaming, kept doing something different, trying to be an entrepreneur. And so probably from the time I started my first lawn company until this company, I literally started maybe, I want to say eight or nine different official businesses, okay? In various different areas. Like I was always trying to take what I was doing and turn it into a business, and I just met challenges. Some of them were the same challenges that I saw over and over. Some of them were just specific and nuanced to that specific industry challenge that I ran into. And so it just failed. I could not press past those challenges. I could not turn that business over either. And I ended up circling back, full circle, back to lawn care, all right? And this is I'm gonna give you an experiential truth. The truth that really combats the lie that lawn care business sucks. I don't know what the reason why people say that. Well, I'll say this, statistically, there's a small group of people, right? There's a small group of people that enjoy lawn care, like lawn care is their passion. I run a lawn care business, but doing lawn care is not my passion. I hate it. I'm actually allergic to grass. I'm allergic to dust. I'm allergic to pollen. But I spent 3 or 4 years out in the field grinding every day. So it's just a part of what came with the territory. I hated it. I didn't like it, but I did it because I love being an entrepreneur. I love being my own boss. I love commanding my own schedule. I love making my own salary, right? Naming my own price, my own value. So those are things that I love. But the truth is, lawn care doesn't necessarily suck. Being an entrepreneur sucks. That's really what sucks. And so while I was thinking about that, I was like, okay, yeah, let me take these headphones off. They're not even working. I think I got them hooked up wrong. While I was thinking about that, that was a big revelatory moment for me, because I think about all of the businesses I started from the time I was 20 up until I was 32. And I think about how I ran into so many challenges with each one. And a lot of those challenges washed me out. At least 8 or 9 times I got washed out of entrepreneurship because of the challenges I ran into until I got here. And I ran into the same challenges. Some of them were specific to this industry, but I ran into the same challenges again, and I just pressed past them. This time I had the experience. This time I had the gut check. This time I had the blood, sweat, and tears. This time I had the willingness and the mentality to sacrifice. This time I had the things that were needed to develop the skill set over all of those years, over all of those failed attempts that gave me what the perfect recipe that I needed now. All right. And so I want to make it very clear. Running a lawn care business does not suck any more than running a tech business. It does not suck any more than running a personal training business. It doesn't matter what business you're in. If you make cookies, if you bake for a living, if you make trinkets and ornaments, if you're a toy maker, I don't know what you do, but whatever it is you do or you decide to do, you need to understand the industry itself is not one that sucks. It is the act of being an entrepreneur that is very difficult. That is the thing that washes people out. It's not what you do. It is the fact that what you're required to do as the owner of what you do, as the overseer of what you do, right? That's the thing that washes people out, because there's a certain skill set you need. And I talked about that on the video, so I'm not going to go too back over exactly what I said in the video, but you got to understand, like, if I could just put it simply, it's going to take a lot of time. It takes time to develop the skill set so that you can be successful. It takes effort, or hard work, if you will, but effort, sacrifice, right? Trial and error. You're going to have to be able to take some losses. You're going to have to be able to go into some situations mysteriously, not really having it all figured out, not really having everything under your hands, not really having your legs all the way under you steady. Not every decision that you have to make, you'll have time to think it through and spend 30 days on it and practice. Some stuff some opportunities are going to present themselves. Some problems are going to present themselves that you have to make split decisions on. And guess what? If you've never made that decision, you may make the wrong decision in that time. If you've never had to deal with that problem, you may come up with the wrong solution for that problem at that time. That's very likely. And that's a loss you might have to take. But you can learn from that if you don't let it destroy you, if you don't let it create such a depression or such a discouragement in you that you walk away from it. So it's very, very important. Very, very important to understand that, like trial and error, wins and losses, you have to have endurance. You have to have endurance. You have to be able to take a lot of things. A lot of stuff is going to go wrong. A lot of stuff is going to happen that you don't anticipate, that you don't plan for, that you don't find beneficial or profitable, that you're not necessarily comfortable with. And you have to be able to keep going. All right. You have to be able to get up and keep going. So endurance is very big. Stamina, your ability to have that gear to keep going. So I think about it like this. Endurance is how much you can take without quitting or wilting. Stamina is how much you can give without quitting or wilting. So how many days in a row can you get up and just go after and grind and attack your goals? How many days in a row can you get up and put that same energy, that same fire to that flame that seems to not necessarily want to spark up, not necessarily want to grow and just come? You're putting your same energy to these coals. You ever seen those videos where they're like trying to start a fire, and the guy has that one stick and he's like rubbing it back and forth with his hands, in between his hands like that, right? And, in movies, they make that seem like, it's just a 2-second process, just a little, he does it real quick, boom. But really in real life, that is a very intense process. Your hands are probably going to hurt. Your arms are going to hurt. Your lips are probably going to hurt. You're trying to blow those embers, blow that, like all of that. That whole process is very intense. It's very intentional. You have to be focused of what you're doing, and you have to have tenacity. You have the ability, the stamina to keep going until that thing starts, until that fire catches. Well, being an entrepreneurship is similar to that. And that's where you have to have the stamina every day to wake up, to look and go when you're discouraged, when things aren't going right, when you're not making money, when you're losing money. Right? Like you have to have stamina when no one believes in you, when no one's supporting you, right? Like I'm not being funny. My mother, to this day, I don't cut my mom's grass. I love my mom and she loves me very much. But I remember thinking when I first got started, like, okay, I'm starting this business. If anybody gonna sign up for my lawn care service, it's gonna be my mom. And she didn't. And I'm glad she didn't. Because it taught me to have stamina and endurance. It taught me not to depend on that. It taught me to say, look, this is business. You know what I mean? And why should my mom waste money when she got, my stepdad is at home. He can go ahead and he can do it. He's been doing it. My brother lives at home in his 20s. He can do it. So, it made sense. But I think at the time I had to learn how to grow beyond that. I had to learn how to get out of that mindset. Like, man, I got all these family members sprinkled throughout the city. Don't none of y'all want to help me out and be some of my first customers? Heck no. People don't want to buy into business just because they know you, and you as an entrepreneur are wrong to think that people should support you just because you're starting a business or a company. I don't care how close they are. My first year in business, I made so little money. A lot of the conversation that I heard, not necessarily from my wife, I heard it maybe once or twice from my wife, but just conversation with people around me was like, yo, you might want to go get a job. This ain't working out. You might want to go get a job. That's very discouraging. That's one of those things I had to endure, keep my head to the ground, keep my eyes focused, keep my vision focused, and press through all of that noise. And so entrepreneurship sucks. It's very rewarding, high risk, high reward, very rewarding. Trust me, I know there's another side to that coin, which I'm not going to talk about today, but it is a very rewarding move to make as an entrepreneur. But entrepreneurship, especially if you're new, and even if you've been in it for a few years, like I'm not the most longevitous entrepreneur, but like I said, I've been attempting entrepreneurship since I was 20. I'm 37 now. Let's go to lie number 2. Lie number 2 was discussing false numbers. Discussing false numbers is something I see a lot on social media. It's been getting better. A lot of the companies and kind of what do you want to call that? Influence leaders in this industry have been doing better now with being more transparent about numbers. I broke it down on a whiteboard on the video. So if you haven't seen the video, I'll give you that. That's a great example. You can follow me. It's a little 2-minute, 3-minute section. I break down on the whiteboard what's happening. For example, I just gave one example, but people will say something like, I said I made $12,000 a year in one instance. And I mean, $12,000 a month in one instance. And I did. My business did revenue $12,000. But that's all I said, and I left it at that, and I moved on saying some other things about money. But the truth of the matter is that I really only made about $3,200 that month. I only took home to pay my bills, support everything in my personal life. I only took home about $3,200. But what I said was, hey, I made 12 grand. And I fell right into that same trap, that same lie, because some guys do it on purpose. They want to conflate the numbers. They don't want you to know the truth because the truth might show there's some deficiency there. It might show that there's some weakness there. It might show that there's some incompetence there. But it's important. It's important for the other half of that coin, which is some guys really just don't know their numbers. So they really think they made 12 grand. They go out, they look after the month, how much they collected on their little CRM software, QuickBooks, whatever. And they're like, oh, I made 12 grand. Let's go. I made 12 G's. And I know what you mean. I've been there. I felt that feeling coming out of my first year into my second year, making $163 a week, making probably a little over $600 a month my first year in lawn care. A month, not a day, not a week. That was a month. That's what I was making my first year in lawn care. To month 1 of year 2, grossing a revenue of 12 grand. I thought I was the man. I was like, I've hit it. Let's go. It's time to make this money. Feeling really good. But the truth was, when I started, I didn't know my numbers at the time. So it was easy for me to make that claim. It was easy for me to say, yo, I'm making 12 grand in lawn care right now. No, you're not. I made barely 3 grand in lawn care that month. But if you don't know your numbers, you don't know how to break your numbers down, that's another reason why a lot of, especially people in our industry, give out false information and false numbers. If I would have said I made $3,200 my first year, my first month of lawn care, some people might have had a different response. You know what I mean? Some people that heard that message might have been like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Maybe I don't want to get into this. That's all you made? So out of 12 grand, that's all you took home? Okay, why is that? Let's break that down. And so I did that on a whiteboard very briefly. Now, that was just a cursory glance. That was 4 years ago. So I was not speaking like had the numbers in front of me, breaking it down. I was giving you guys a broad example of what happens when people share numbers and they share them untruthfully, and how easily you can get caught up in that. And so you have to understand your numbers. You have to understand when you're listening to other companies or people talk about these numbers, you have to be able to kind of weed through or read between the lines. If you're dealing with people or you're listening to people and influencers and things like that are not being completely honest, you just have to develop that skill. And the best way to do that is to know your numbers yourself. Learning how to calculate your numbers yourself. If you don't, this is my recommendation. Go get yourself a great accountant, a great financial advisor. I sit down with a CPA. She does a quarterly review on me. We walk through month by month. She shows me how profitable I am. What's my percentage of profitability? How much money I'm taking on average each month, each week. She breaks that down. It helps me. I did not have the ability to calculate that and keep track of all that. But because I have her, she does that for me as a part of my bookkeeping and accounting that I pay her for, and then we do a review, and she helps me say, hey, look, you need to raise your prices here, or you need to do this, or I would invest in this, or I would stop doing this service. It's not being profitable, whatever. Like, those are key pieces of growing a healthy business that require you to know your numbers. And a lot of times in lawn care, because lawn care is such a cash flowing business, a lot of people pay in cash, checks, things like that. Because it's such a cash flowing business, a lot of times you don't focus on knowing your numbers, on learning your numbers. And what happens is when you do that, because cash comes in and comes so quickly and you're just focused on making more money. That's the thing. You're just like, I just got to get out and make more money. I just got to get out and cut more yards. I just got to get out and do more of these kind of services. And that's kind of what you get wrapped up in. That's one of the things I think that's specific to the nuance of lawn care, because it's such a high, cash flowing business. You're just like money, 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 money. And you don't take time to say money in, where's it going out to? Money in, where do I need to allocate it? Money in, taxes. Money in, like you don't start thinking about those things. You never really spend time, especially as a new business owner, because your first goal is just to make money. You start hiring people, you start doing employees, you start taking on higher ticket jobs, you start getting contracts, and they start sending W-9s and I-9s and all that kind of stuff. And then you start realizing, getting them letters from the IRS like, oh, you didn't pay this, you didn't file that, you didn't do this, that quarter, this, that. Listen, it'll line you up real quick, because they don't handle the internal workings of their numbers. And if you're not savvy enough, organized enough, or skillful enough with numbers to do it, hire help. Hire help. I am the first to tell you, I am not that guy. I hired an official, and she has a nice little ticket, but I will pay that ticket so that her expertise can help me keep that mountain from ever growing as high as I had let it grow, and just sharpen me as a business owner. That's my partner in business, if you will. My accountant is like my second. That's like my partnership, right? So that's one of the truth I want you guys to understand. Many business owners either don't know their numbers, and that's why they give you false information, or they're trying to protect the privacy or the intimacy of their business, and some are just blatantly lying because, if I say that I have a $20 million lawn care business and you see that on a thumbnail, you're probably going to click on it. How did he get that? How did he do that? Talk to me. So some people just lie about stuff and conflate stuff for the click or for the like, because even YouTube is a business in itself too. Podcasts are a business in themselves too. I think lie number 3 is too much competition. Too much competition. That is a big lie that happens, right? That's a lie that I think I told myself. I didn't necessarily hear that from anybody, but I remember being out once I started wanting to get into lawn care, and I remember looking, and it's like you ever thought about getting a new car? Watch this. Like, okay, let's say you want a Jeep. That's my dream car, right? Surprisingly, that's my dream car. Like a Jeep, Wrangler, Rubicon, something like that, all tricked out. That's my dream car. So as soon as I started searching online for Jeeps, the kind that I wanted, I promise you, like that next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it was like that's all I saw on the road. Never saw them before. It's something that happens subconsciously. I forget what the phenomenon is called, but it's literally a scientific phenomenon that happens in your mind where, because you've told yourself, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I desire, now you see everyone with it. Like everywhere I went, I would see a Rubicon or a Wrangler. And I was like, I've never seen this many of them in the city before, but now I'm seeing them everywhere because now I've had this interest, this innate interest in it, right? And so when you say there's too much, when I started telling myself before I got into the business, one of the things that I fought with was too much competition. So once I started saying that, it was like everywhere I drove, when I was going to the grocery store, going to pick my kids up, dropping kids off, I was always seeing lawn companies now. I'm always seeing them everywhere I go. It's like I can't unsee them. I'm like, bro, there's way too many companies. There's no way. Why would you consider doing this? There's way too much competition. Like, this is a terrible industry to get into. That's what I was telling myself. That's the lie. And I think a lot of people do tell themselves that. Not necessarily someone tells you that, but you tell yourself that. The truth is that the saturation actually increases opportunities. The more companies there are, the higher margins there are for error, for failure. All right? The higher opportunities there are for subcontracting work. It's almost the inverse reaction, actually. The more companies there are out there, the more shots you have of getting in. I just got 2 or 3 estimates this week, calls for estimates this week. And guess what their story was? Their story was, my last guy moved out of state. My last guy just ghosted me. I haven't heard from him. My last company ran into some troubles, said they had to shut down. So I'm in the market for a new guy. 3 out of 3 had somebody doing their lawn last summer, last season. And I guarantee you all 3 of those people probably used 3 different companies. They probably all didn't use the same person, because the reason that they told me the guy they're no longer dealing with the other companies was different. So 3 different people using 3 different companies, and each one had a reason to tell me why they used to be with somebody and they no longer are. That's because the margin for error is so much higher. Turnover rate is so much higher. Keeping is like one of the big struggles that I hear a lot of companies say is they have trouble keeping guys. They have trouble keeping employees. And a lot of times they say, well, it's the employees, the type of people, they don't want to work. It's this new generation of young people, they don't want to work, this, that, and the third. And they don't take the control that they really have as an employer and say, hey, maybe I can improve my onboarding process. Maybe I can offer benefits. Maybe I can increase pay. Maybe I can have a better training structure. Maybe I can streamline services and processes for my employees. Maybe I can have a dedicated focus on my employees. So this way, when they come into my organization, they do not leave. It's not a revolving door. That's something that I had to learn and pick up. But that's one of the things that I know kills a lot of businesses in lawn care. So there's all this room for error. There's all these challenges that come along with operating the business. And a lot of times, people that get into this industry for 1 or 2, 3 years, they find out very quickly that they're just not up to solve those challenges. I said on the video, I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, entrepreneurship is like you need a 15. It's like a 15. So you need 15 gears. And if you've only got 1 through 10, you really have to grind, hustle, stay focused, stay intentional about developing the other 5. The lie I just talked about, numbers, that's a big one that washes companies out. They can't balance books, balance a check sheet. They can't, they don't know their numbers. So they're not keeping track of profitability, overhead, expenditure. How much does it cost? Customer acquisition cost. Close ratio, those kind of things. They're not worried or concerned about that. They have no expertise. They have not developed the skill for that. And that's one of the things that comes to eat them up down the line, and they cannot stay in business because they operated for so long without making decisions based off that data, without making decisions that effectively use that data, use those numbers to benefit the business. And so they wash out. Some people, it's just injuries. They get injured on the job. You're an entrepreneur. You might not have the best healthcare plan because you're usually most guys, if they don't have healthcare at all, if they're not signed up for coverage, they have to pay everything out of pocket. One injury can kill a whole business. One bad purchase. They bought one piece of equipment that just was too high of an overhead and don't have enough business to carry. All of these things are things that business, especially people in the lawn care business, do over and over. I see it time and time again. I'm talking to one guy this year. Next year, he's gone. He's like, oh, man, I ain't doing that no more, man. I'm doing this. Oh, yeah, I seen him 2-3 years. We dapping up, running into each other at the gas station and stuff. I run into him last year or this year, and they be like, yeah, I'm out, man. It was just too much. It was too much. Me and my wife was really going through it, man. And I just, I had to get out, man, and just focus on my marriage or whatever. There are a plethora of challenges that wash people out year after year. So I want you to understand the idea that there's too much competition. Do not concern yourself with that. And understand that the competition is not the problem. I'm going to say it again. The competition, regardless of how many companies you see or know are in your area, that is not the problem. That is not a reason for not getting into the industry. Because the more competition there is, the higher the margin for error. One of the things that a lot of people do think, because the market is saturated, especially in like California, New York, and Florida, I think are the 3 largest, most heavily saturated lawn company areas, states. One of the things that I think people get overlooked is that a lot of times clients feel that way too. And so they'll drop, like clients are ruthless. They'll drop you in a heartbeat. You have to blade the grass on my step, you're done. I don't feel like you cleaned up effectively. It's a ruthless market. And a lot of that goes into, they feel like, lawn companies are a dime a dozen. They're everywhere. So, I don't like something you did, whatever, boom, you're cut. As soon as a client goes through some kind of financial hardship, 9 times out of 10, they start thinking, where do I cut back some expenditures? Lawn care is one of the first things to go. And so clients will do that. You know that, and you understand why they're thinking that way and why they would make such rash decisions. Listen, use that information to come up with a solution. If you know there's a lot of competition, use that information to come up with a solution. Why are we being lazy as business owners? Why are you saying I'll just cross that bridge when I get there? I'll build that bridge when I come to that river. No. You know it going in. I use that I said, hey, well, if there's a lot of people out here, guess what? Somebody ain't going to do great work. Somebody going to get sick. Somebody's truck is going to break down and they're not going to be able to recover. Somebody's not going to balance their books and their worksheets right. Somebody's not going to be able to keep employees. Somebody's just going to have poor service, poor response time. They're not going to call and follow up with customers. Somebody's not going to be a great business owner, a great steward. That's what I thought. So I said, you know what? These are the things that I'm going to work on so that when it comes down to cutting and competing, I'm already above the guy that doesn't give good service because I give excellent service. I'm already above the guy that has terrible customer service because I call and talk with all of my clients. You know what I'm saying? I'm responsive to their needs, to their concerns. This is how I have a special process for handling. I developed my process for how to handle complaints. First thing was taking responsibility. A customer complains, I don't care if I did it or not. I apologize. I take full responsibility. You let your lawn in my care. If my guys did it or not. Let's make this right. No strings attached. Let me make this right. There's certain tactics and things I've thought of and come up with and developed because I knew that was something people think. I knew that was something. And then I also knew a lot of people weren't going to get into it because they thought of that. I said, that's one less person I got to compete with because somebody else out here is thinking the same thing I'm thinking. There's way too much competition. And guess what? They're not going to get into the industry. That's going to be their scapegoat. That's going to be the thing that they just can't push past. And so if I just take the step to get in, I've already beat the 10 other guys that are thinking that are like, there's too much competition. I probably should think of doing something else. Last line I want to talk about, we want to let y'all go for today, is success is measured in size. Success is measured in size. The size of your bank account, the size of your clientele base, the size of your equipment, the size of your shop. This is a big, tremendous lie. How many trucks you have, how many employees you have, that is not an indicator of the health and success of your business. It's not. It is not. There's plenty of businesses that don't have a shop, don't have a zero turn, don't have multiple trucks, solo operators, and I'll be honest, they're probably more profitable to me because growth sucks cash. The bigger you are, the more overhead you have, the more expenditure you have, the more marketing you're doing. You're doing things and putting money to things that the smaller companies aren't. And guess what? As far as profitability goes, a lot of times you can be more profitable as a smaller company. Your profit margins can be greater because you don't have all the overhead. You don't have all the expenditures. So size is not necessarily a sign of health. You ever thought about when I was in the training industry, I told you that at the beginning of the episode, I remember dealing with the natural. I was trying to do natural competitions. My professor at the time was actually a competitive bodybuilder in the natural bodybuilding segment. He did the Arnolds and stuff like that. And I remember us discussing like what happens to the body when you put steroids in it or when you put certain supplements and vitamins and things like that in the body and how they affect the body. And what I came to find out was some of the most unhealthy people are the most fit looking people, bodybuilders. They're some of the most unhealthy. Blood pressure, like the size of their hearts, things like that are enlarged from steroids, the side effects of steroids. I don't care how safe you are using them. I've seen it. These guys are big, they're massive, they look great. Boom, boom, boom. The ladies, they looking boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, man, you know what I'm saying? Like, dang. And you would think that they're the healthiest people, but you'd be surprised. Like their body's not meant to consume that many calories. The body's not meant to be that size. It's not. Your bones, the pressure it puts on your bones and ligaments and tendons. because the mass of your muscles is so much. The fat content, the way that you have to eat, the stress that you put on your organs because they're trying to process the amount of foods and medicines and steroids and different things that you take and put in your body. They make you, some of that makes you the unhealthiest. On the outside, you look great. You're a monster. You can pose and muscles are popping everywhere, but internally the system is broken and struggling and scraping to survive. And so that's why success can't be measured in size. It's just like it is in healthcare. Success in your business can't be measured in size because you got 40 employees and 30 trucks and 10 locations and this and that. Now there's some people who I respect because they're transparent and I know the way that they talk. I've been to their conferences. I've talked with them myself personally, and I've seen their body of work, like, Mike Andes, Blades of Grass, what's your boy's name? Brian's Lawn Maintenance. Like, I've seen these guys. Shook hands with the guys. They might not remember me or know me, but I've seen these guys. And I've seen their body of work over the years. I know that what they're putting up is actually factual. They do have some larger companies. They got multiple trucks, multiple equipment, things like that, use a couple employees, handful of employees, whatever the case is. But I've seen that their success is legit. That their size actually matches their internals, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So they're healthy. They're larger companies than I am, but they're healthy. It's not just a size. They don't just have 20 trucks for nothing. They're well-oiled machines. And so I need you guys to understand the truth. Like, size is a poor reflection of health in business. You do not need a shop. You do not need this. I ran my first 4 years, I ran out of my garage. My first 4 years of business were all ran out of my garage. I just moved into this space. I haven't even been in this space a year. My first mower was a $500 Skag, like 2002 Skag, 2007 Skag, something like that. Super old, rickety, $500. I had to put a new engine on it, tires, blades, all that kind of stuff to get it working. That was my first official commercial mower. And then I bought another X-Mark, which was in the same state. Just as broke down, just as tore up, needed a new engine, all that kind of stuff. And those were my first two commercial mowers. They were not, watch this, I don't think either of them were working when I bought them. I had to put money into them to get them to work. And, I kept them in the garage. I had Marquette donated a weed eater to me. One that was so run down and beat up and heavy, but he donated it to me. It was mine. That's what I started with. I found a $25, $30 push mower online off of Facebook Marketplace around the corner. Went and picked it up. That mug probably ran for about 5-6 yards and then gave up the ghost. It was over. So when I think of these things, does that mean I'm not successful? Because I wasn't as big as Brian's Lawn Maintenance? Because I wasn't making the type of money I'm making now? No, not at all. Don't be looking to the other companies for the measurement of your success. I think I did that, especially my first year. I did that, driving around. Truck was rickety. Like, literally, if you would have lifted up the floor mat in my truck, you could see the street. Like, it was rusted out. That's how bad my first truck was. It was a 2002 Chevy. I started this company in 2019, so you can imagine how old it was. 230,000 miles on it when I bought it. Not when I got it. I'll talk about the story behind that on another episode. But somebody basically said that the Lord told them to give me a truck. And so they gave me that truck, and that truck I was in desperate need because I was trying to start this business. And at the time, all I had was a car. So anyways, I get this truck. The truck is in terrible shape. But guess what? It lasted 2.5 seasons with me before I sold it. It got me through my first year, my second year, and I sold it going into my third year and started buying new trucks after that. But I'm just saying that to say that was success. I woke up every day and said, look, this was a dream a few months ago. Now I actually have a truck. I actually have 2 sit-down mowers. I actually have 2 weed eaters that I bought from Lowe's that that aren't donated. I started seeing minuscule pieces of success for me. I am just not where I was a week ago. That for me was success. I have 1 more customer this week than I had 2 weeks ago. That for me was success. I'm still going in spite of all the challenges. That for me was success. And because I had an identity of what success looked like for me, I did not get distracted by how big another company was. Oh, this guy has racks on his trailer and I don't even have a trailer. All I got is a truck and everything's going in the bed of my truck. So what? So what? I remember that 3 weeks ago, I didn't even have a truck. 4 months ago, I didn't even have those sit-down mowers. I saw success and I knew what it was to me, and that gave me fuel and fire to keep pressing, to keep going, and to not get caught up in the right or the left. Sometimes I did get discouraged. Sometimes I did see nice trucks. I did see people with uniforms. I didn't have uniforms. I bought highlighter t-shirts from the dollar store. That's all I could afford. I didn't have no uniforms, and I wore the same khaki pants. Same pair of khaki pants. That was my uniform. Didn't have my name on it or nothing. I remember I drew signs. If you go to my Facebook page, Believe M&M Facebook page, you'll see, go back down to 2019. You will see I drew my yard signs. I didn't have money to go buy them. I drew them with permanent marker and stencils. Went to the dollar store, got a stencil set, permanent markers, and I sat down in my living room for a couple hours and I would draw these signs out with stencils and then go place them up in my neighborhood. Didn't have money for flyers or business cards, so I actually went on my computer here, got on Word, found a flyer template and just put in my information. Printed out 500, I think I printed out 1,500 of them and passed them out. I would spend 8 hours a day walking through neighborhoods I wanted to work in and passing them out. Nobody knows this, but for me, that was success. That was success. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about how much. I was like, look, I'm doing something. I am back into the entrepreneurship game, and that's what I want to be. I don't want to have to work a job. I don't want to have to fill out applications ever again for the rest of my life. I don't want somebody telling me how much I can make, when I can take time off, when I can't. I don't want that. What time I gotta be there. I don't want that. So success for me was defining what I really wanted from my life in as many areas as I had control over, and then stepping up to the plate and doing something to work towards getting each of those things. That's it for today. I'm going to stop it there. I don't want to prolong the time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. Got some great information, some great content, some great encouragement out of what was discussed. Don't forget YouTube page at the Mo Money Mindset. All right, go check us out there. Please subscribe, like, comment. Don't forget on this episode to leave us a 5-star review, as well as say something. Get at us in that comment box so we can respond. We can engage with the community. I'm so grateful for your guys' attention today, and I will catch you guys on the next episode of the Mo Money Mindset. All right, peace.